If you are planning to sell your residential property or in a process of listing it, you need to watch this video. I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step process of how to sell your residential property in Calgary, Alberta. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, my name is Cameron Faisal. I am a local real estate agent with Urban Realty in Calgary, Alberta, and today we are going to talk about a step-by-step process of how to sell a residential property. I will also talk about some of the major costs that is associated with that selling process, as well as give you some tips that's going to help you through the entire process of selling. First and foremost, you need to assess your situation and actually ask yourself two major questions. Why are you selling this property? And is this the right time for you to sell your property? And I'm saying this in the beginning of 2022 when we are in a very strong seller's market. But you as a seller need to know and understand whether it's a good time for you to sell your property. And I'm going to quickly talk about two aspects of it. First, if you have a mortgage on your property, you should have a clear idea of what type of mortgage it is and where are you currently in your mortgage term. For example, if you have a fixed rate 4 or 5 year term and you are only in your second year, there's going to be a significant penalty when you are selling your property and breaking that mortgage term. So you should have a good idea and a clear understanding about your mortgage situation. Secondly, the cost of selling. So selling a residential property is not a cheap process. There are some costs associated with the selling process, and in this buying and selling transaction, majority of this cost is borne by the seller. So you should have a good idea that you can basically cover this cost through the sale of your property and not something that you are paying out of your pocket. Now, once you made a decision that you are selling your property, you need to hire a realtor and you should list the property through a realtor. And I'm not saying this because I'm a realtor. It's because that if you list your property through a realtor, there are several advantages. And I'm going to quickly go through some of those. So when you're listing your property through a realtor, you are listing it through a professional. Realtors, that's their job to help people buy and sell properties. And even if a realtor who is relatively new and has sold even few properties, he or she is going to have way more experience than you as a seller, even if you bought or sold 1 or 2 properties. Also, realtors have so many resources available at their brokerage. So if it's a complicated transaction and even the realtor hasn't really gone through such transaction, they can reach out to those resources and can give you the right direction. Number 2, listing through a realtor will give your property a lot more exposure to the potential buyers. And the last one is that pretty much all the transactions that are gone through the realtors, they are insured. So if something happened during the transaction, you are most likely covered. Now, if you are listing your property through a realtor, there will be a cost associated with it. And this is typically the biggest cost of the transaction. So you as a seller will not only be paying to your realtor, but you will also be paying to the buyer realtor. Realtors are paid through commission on the sold price of the property, and typically it is 7% on the first 100,000 and then 3% on the remaining price of the property. And this is then split between the buyer realtor and the seller realtor. Now these commissions are negotiable, and this is something you need to discuss with your realtor in detail. An important thing for you as a seller is that you should not be hiring a realtor solely based on their commissions. You need to interview that person and really have to discuss what is their marketing strategy for listing your property. What would be their listing strategy? What is the strategy that they're going to follow to receive offer and present it to you? Have they done any market research regarding your property price and the comparables? And what is the sale price that they are suggesting you and why? These are all the things that you should be discussing with your realtor in detail. Once you decide on a realtor, you need to sign some documentation with them. And there are three main documents that your realtor is going to ask you to review and sign. The first document is Consumer Relationship Guide. That basically talks about your responsibilities, your realtor responsibilities, and some other helpful information. The second document is FinTech Identification Form. That basically include your identity information and that you are a legal resident of Canada. The third document is Seller Representation Agreement, which we also call Listing Agreement. This document asks for quite a bit of information, but here I want to focus on three items. Dower rights. Dower rights basically protects the rights of non-registered spouse on the property. So there are three conditions when the dower rights apply. The first, if you are legally married and if you are the only person whose name is on the land title and you and your spouse have lived together in that property, even if it's a single night, then the dower right's going to kick in. And you will need a consent from your spouse basically to list and sell this property. So this information needs to be identified in the listing agreement. The second item is unattached goods. So these are any items that can easily be removed from the property. Usually these include dishwasher, stove, refrigerator, dryer, washer. So you need to identify those in there, that these are the items that you're going to be leaving for the buyer. The third item is material latent defects. So material latent defect in simple words is any defect that cannot be easily discovered through an inspection, and it may have a significant impact on the structure of the property, due to which the property may not be fit to live in. So an example of this would be that if there was a big crack in the concrete wall of the basement and you as the owner of the property knew about it, but you basically hide this through a new drywall. So this is something you must disclose. So if there are any material latent defects, you need to discuss this with your realtor and need to identify that in the listing agreement. This is also the time that your realtor should discuss with you the requirement of a real property report. A real property report, in simple words, is a survey of the property boundaries and basically shows the location of the building structure and shows if there are any easements or encroachments. These reports are prepared by someone who is a registered member of the Alberta Land Surveyor Association. So these real property reports should be current. That means that it should capture all the structures located on the property. So for example, if you had a deck and you extended that deck, if the real property report does not capture that, it won't be a current real property report. These current real property reports should also have the municipal compliance stamp. So for example, in the city of Calgary, you need to take it to the city of Calgary office and they're going to basically put a compliance stamp on that. That means that it is in compliance with the city regulation. If you are selling a condo, then this is probably the time that you should reach out to your condo management and request the condo documents. Condo documents basically include information on the physical condition of the building in which your condo is located, as well as the financial situation of the condo management board. This is the information that your potential buyer is going to be looking for. Finally, your property should be ready and presentable for the listing. So if there is any paint or repairs needed, you should do that right away. So the next step is listing your property. Your realtor gonna make preparation for listing your property. They're gonna most likely hire a professional photographer to take photos of your property, maybe a video if it's a luxury house, install a listing sign in front of your property, and also install a lockbox so that other realtors can access your property. This is also the time that your realtor gonna measure your property according to the residential measurement standards, and that information gonna be included as part of your property listing. All this information gonna be uploaded to MLS listing system, and then the listing going to be active. Your realtor may use some other venues, for example, different social media web pages to market your property. Whenever your realtor is setting up the schedule for showing requests, if there is any time that really doesn't work for you, let your realtor know and they're going to basically black out that time so that you do not receive showing requests during that time. When there is a showing organized for your property, you will be requested to leave the property so that the buyers and their agent, they can freely view your property. During these showings, if someone really likes your property, they're gonna probably put an offer on it. You will receive these offers as written purchase offers, and usually it includes offer price, date of possession, initial deposit, and some conditions. The typical conditions that buyer put in these offer to purchase documents are financing condition and inspection condition. The financing and the inspection conditions are buyer conditions, so they have to complete that. But if it's a condo unit, then the buyer may put a condition to receive the condo documents. And this is something that you need to provide it to the buyer's realtor. This purchase offer will be open to a certain date and time that's going to be identified in the purchase offer, and you as a seller need to respond to the buyer within that time frame. Otherwise, it's going to be expired. This is the stage where the negotiation starts, and your realtor will help you out with that negotiation process. The next step is waiver of conditions. This is something that the buyer has to complete. So for example, the financing and the inspection conditions that the buyer included in the purchase contract, they need to complete those conditions to the date that they have committed in the purchase contract. Once those conditions are completed by the buyer will send you a waiver of condition form, and at that time, the property will be unconditionally sold to the buyer. The last step is involving your real estate lawyer. Your real estate lawyer is responsible for all the legal aspect of this transaction. They are responsible for receiving all the funds and the transfer of land title. So on the day of possession, once your lawyer receives all the funds, they will inform your realtor, and then your realtor will release the keys to the new buyer. You need to be out of the property before the possession date, and make sure that you leave the property clean and in the same state that it was at the time of sale. From the sale money, your lawyer will first pay the remaining of the mortgage, any taxes, realtor's fee, lawyer's fee, and then the rest will be transferred to you in a week or two. So these were the various steps for selling a house in Calgary. I hope it was helpful to you. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.